it's one of them. Obviously, I've just got to thank Canelo and his team for giving me this opportunity, all of his team, including Eddie Hearn, because it's one of them. I feel privileged to be taking part in this. Obviously, I'm not going to win. I'm just going to go there and pick my money up and go home.
Well, I got a very interesting video for you guys. Was that a great prediction on my part or what? Show me one video creator who told you that Dillian Whyte was going to turn into a sheep. Now, this isn't me tooting my own horn because I think the fight was extremely easy to predict, given all the evidence we have. And I'm definitely a little bit upset with Dillian Whyte. Or the game of boxing, really. I'm doing this to help some open-minded people see the truth. And because I really enjoy thought exercises that we all get to test out in real life. So our narratives or predictions going into a fight ultimately get tested. And these tests help to establish or destroy credibility. So if one of the narratives is that Dillian Whyte is coming to win this fight because he's in the greatest shape ever, then not only does that imply that he didn't come to win some other fights where he wasn't in great shape, it also means that he's liable to throw any fight, even one where he looks to be in good shape. And if he is in this great shape and all of this self-deprecation that we see is just mind games because he's really determined to win, then he's not gonna go into a fetal position and stop throwing punches simply because he gets grazed by the palm behind the head in the first 80 or so seconds of the fight. He's gonna show more punch resistance and desire than he did. But instead of trying to rectify the pre-fight narrative with what actually transpired, and one honest summary might be that he wasn't in such great shape, and or that he didn't actually come to win, as you yourself implied he's liable to do. Or am I making too much sense, just as my prediction did? Or are we still maintaining that Dillian Whyte was in tremendous physical shape and showed the utmost desire to win? But instead of questioning these now obviously erroneous premises that I told you before the fight were utterly ridiculous, people are now moving the goalpost. Dillian Whyte is all of a sudden shot when he was in tremendous physical shape. Dillian Whyte doesn't have it anymore all of a sudden when he had the eye of the tiger or the wolf going into the fight. Sounds like a whole bunch of cope to me, when all you gotta do is just be honest with yourself. After all, you yourself implied that Dillian Whyte sometimes doesn't come to win. And this was just one of them. What do you have to lose? Honestly. Dillian Whyte took a couple, maybe 3 clean headshots and seemed perfectly fine to me. Then he takes a grazing blow with the palm behind the head and becomes a punching bag. Long story short, you can't just hype a guy up to high heavens, then that guy doesn't show up, and you think you could just completely avoid any sort of reckoning and pretend to still have credibility. But I do admit, and I said this before the fight, that Itauma was just too much, was always going to be too much for Dillian Whyte. But that says nothing about whether or not Dillian Whyte actually tried to win the fight. And seeing as we all agreed that sometimes guys just don't come to win, and you don't think that was Dillian Whyte tonight, you tell me what a guy throwing a fight looks like. How much worse does it actually have to get before people could admit that, which to me is obvious? Do we really need to see another Deontay Wilder versus Malik Scott before people are able to admit that some guys just take dives? Is that really the threshold, and anything that looks remotely better or not as bad is automatically a real fight? Is that the low IQ take I have to assume in order to be respected by the masses? That reality is either black or white and gradients, nuance just doesn't exist? Anyway, let's get to the promised interesting part of the video where I give you a little bit more evidence for what it is that I'm claiming, as well as another curious thing about our Buddy McGirt. So in their penultimate face-off before the fight, Itauma was really nervous, charged up, and Dillian Whyte sensed it and just told him to chill, relax. Whenever have you seen some stuff like that? Come on, man! And then, as if that wasn't enough, he told him, it's not like we're going to put our hands on one another. What? That didn't ring any alarm bells for you? Oh, wait, my bad. It was all mind games. It was so obvious this guy wasn't coming to win. But wait! There's more. After Dillian told him to relax, bro, in the fucking face-off. Then Itauma, looking as if he were embarrassed for trying to act tough on camera, started justifying being aggro to his opponent. Beta! He stated, I just want to see your eyes, cuz, throwing in that gangsta Americanism in there to, I guess, keep up appearances. So instead of demanding to look into his opponent's eyes, he basically said, pretty please, cuz. But Itauma continued his justification, saying that he wants to see if he's dealing with a wolf or a sheep. To which Dillian Whyte promptly replied, don't worry, bro. To which Itauma says, alright, say no more. So Itauma was curious, concerned. He wanted to know something. He wanted to know if Dillian Whyte was going to be a wolf or a sheep, because that had been the talk of the town up until that point. Given that Dillian Whyte had up until that point been acting very strangely, out of character, and seemingly sad, depressed, or definitely self-deprecating, people were wondering if he was actually gonna come to win this fight, right? Was he gonna be a wolf or a sheep? And which one do you think was gonna worry Itauma more? At least in the mind of Dillian Whyte, right? Because he was the one who told him to not worry about it. Don't worry, bro. You've seen me before. He told his opponent in a face-off where fighters customarily are jawing at each other, trying to stare each other down. You know the deal, I ain't gotta tell you, right? He told them to relax and not worry about the wolf, obviously. And then, during his walkout, at that point where he always stops and does the wolf howl, where that Dillian was nowhere to be found. He was clearly communicating to anyone who was willing to listen that he wasn't coming to win. But the average boxing fan would much rather delude himself that Dillian Whyte was in the greatest shape of his life and this time he was coming to win. Which coincidentally allowed him to perhaps send a signal to those in the know, betters, without having to fear anything from his drunken fan base, hidden in plain sight. So for those with eyes to see and ears to hear and IQ above room temperature, the writing was on the wall. If you saw that face-off and heard what was said in it and you thought nothing of it, God save your soul. And then there was this very juicy tidbit from our Buddy McGirt. What a nice, unassuming, and trust-inspiring name, huh? Buddy. In this interview on TalkSport, Buddy claimed that while training Dillian Whyte in Portugal, he ran into a couple of interesting guys at a local pub. And get this, he decided to bring one of them home or to the gym, make him an integral part of their training camp, simply because the dude had some photos on his phone of he and Muhammad Ali sparring back in the day. And his name was Joe. Just Joe. Average Joe. Now, I understand the story could be BS, right? But if it is, then Buddy's a liar, and that just reinforces my feelings about the guy going into, well, any fight he's involved in. On top of all this other evidence I already gave you. In a previous video where I talk about how Buddy is seemingly always at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and just seems to have bad juju around him, right? Doesn't make the right decisions, and he just seems like a bum trainer. But if the story is true, this guy brought a stray puppy home and, the thing probably had fleas. Did he give him a bath? Did he vet the guy? Why even take that chance in the first place? Now, I understand you could digitize some old photos of you and Muhammad Ali sparring, but you could just as well make AI make them for you. So he brings Joe into the gym and he has him working with them, helping out, right? Giving instructions to Dillian and or his sparring partner. That could have been a mole or a guy working for the rival team. Somebody who could have potentially contaminated another one of Dillian Whyte's supplements. Exposed them to maybe low levels of toxin poison that would have compromised Dillian Whyte's physical preparation. Let your imagination run wild, right? This guy could have been anybody. But hey, he had photos on his iPhone 1967 of he and Muhammad Ali, so he's legit because everybody loves Muhammad Ali, right? That's just come on. The story's so incredible, it could very well be BS, but if so, then, well, that's your buddy right there. He can't be trusted. And if true, then worst case scenario, Buddy is working for the rival team, looking to compromise his guy. And best case scenario, he's grossly negligent and in no way capable of preparing a fighter for a fight of this magnitude as best as a fighter could be prepared. Which I already gave you evidence for in my previous videos. This guy's a bum. He's incompetent. He can't be trusted. He's a shady character. But his name is Buddy, and his buddy's name is Average Joe, so it's all on the up and up. Don't worry, cuz. Anyway, I don't care how you slice it, but if you had paid attention to the build-up of this fight and really considered what you were looking at, The conclusion was obvious. So this isn't me trying to brag or give myself all this credit. This is me wondering what the fuck is wrong with the average boxing fan. Thanks for watching.
You know, that's all I'm there for. Grab me cash, go off home, sail off to the sunset, you know? It's one of them.